Happy Halloween. And you are watching Horror Talk on Random Horror. Stick around if you can.
Bum 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 bum. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Bum 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 bum. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Bum 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 bum. Give him two lips like roses and clover. Bum bum bum. Then tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Sandman.
Good evening. And welcome to Horror Talk, this Halloween edition. So we've had two Horror Talks this month because we had Friday the 13th. And I had to do a Horror Talk on that. Okay, so this one. Well, first of all, a good evening to you. And happy Halloween. I'm sure you got a lot of candy. I bet you're all sat watching your horror films and eating your candy right now, or you're watching this. So, tonight we are going to be talking all about the Halloween franchise, how it defined the slasher genre, and how it gave us one of the most infamous horror villains of all, Micheal Myers. Okay, so let's begin. So, it started in 1978. John Carpenter, who wasn't that well known at the time, and his wife, Deborah Hill, both came together and wrote a film. Now, they just wanted to make a movie, and make it a horror one. At first, originally titled The Babysitter Murders, we had a film about a killer that stalks babysitters, wearing a clown mask. The film was on a very tight budget, so they had to work with what they had. They couldn't afford a really well-made mask for this film, until the props designer came back to John Carpenter with a Captain Kirk mask from Star Trek. And we all know Captain Kirk is played by the great William Shatner. So they ripped off the sideburns, cut the eye holes bigger, painted it white, and there we have the infamous white, emotionless mask, Micheal Myers. Of course, not credited as the Shape until then, only credited as the Shape in the film. So, when they realised that this film was taking place around a certain holiday, they thought no holiday has been used as a title for it yet. But of course, Halloween wasn't the first slasher out there. We had many films before, such as Peeping Tom, Psycho, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and and Black Christmas. But it was Halloween that put it all on the map with slashers. So, eventually they renamed the film Halloween, and then they had to get a cast of actors. So, the first film, Halloween 1978, was written and directed by John Carpenter and co-written by his wife at the time, Deborah Hill. The film starred Donald Pleasance as Dr. Sam Loomis, one of the series' protagonists and a horror hero, playing Dr. Sam Loomis. It also starred at the time newcomer actress Jamie Lee Curtis, the daughter of Janet Leigh, of course, as Laurie Strode, a local teenage girl that was like a virgin. This is where the cliches came in as well with the film. The virgin always surviving. The film also starred PJ Soles, Nancy Loomis, and Nick Castle as the Shape. So, it took place on Halloween night. what we see in the opening scene, of course, is from a young boy's point of view, through a mask, him murder his sister, Judith Myers, in cold blood 17 times, not knowing what this motive was. Anyway, the film eventually started in 1973 and then took into 1978, 15 years later, when at Smith's Grove Sanitarium, Micheal Myers escapes and becomes the Shape, stalking the three girls, Laurie, Linda and Annie. Both Laurie and her friends. The night of terror was only just beginning, and they were stalked by the killer Micheal Myers. Also, the film followed Dr. Sam Loomis as well, trying to convince the sheriff that no one is safe because Micheal Myers is out on the rampage of killing. So, of course, John Carpenter never expected this film to be as big as it is. He never expected it would become a massive franchise, but it did. And of course, the film was an overnight success. Never had John Carpenter heard the audience scream when Micheal gets like they did when Micheal got up. The tagline for the film was, "The night he came home." And of course, when the film became a success, fans were thirsty for more. Yes, thirsty for more. That is when a sequel went into production. Halloween 2. And the tagline for that was, "More of the night he came home," as the second film takes straight off from where the first movie ended. So yes, H1 and 2 are basically one film in two parts. It was also in this film, it was revealed that Micheal Myers was in fact the long lost brother of Laurie Strode, whose birth name was Cynthia Myers, and she got adopted by the Strodes and was given a new name. In this one, still, again, it's on the same night, and Micheal Myers is, out to get her. And of course, we have Dr. Loomis in it as well, and well, we see the final showdown between the two in this one as it concludes in a hospital. Now, these films have many, kills in there, as I forgot to say. So, one kill, of course, is like the impalement on the knife in the first one when he grabs Linda's boyfriend Bob by the throat and impales him on the ceiling. Then there's like the one where he's like as a ghost and strangles her with a phone wire. Then of course there's the the whole hot tub death scene in Halloween 2 and he's drowning that nurse and burning her at the same time. Yes. Also, here's another fact for you. The role of Dr. Loomis was originally offered to Christopher Lee, but he turned it down as he thought it was not the role for him. But of course, with the success the franchise made, he later regretted it. But I can't see anyone now playing it apart from Donald Pleasance and Malcolm McDowell. Well, when it comes to that, I'll say Sam Loomis is Donald Pleasance is Sam Loomis. So yes, Halloween 2 came out in 1981, and John Carpenter pretty much wanted to end it there. He stepped out of the director's chair for this one, and it was given to newcomer director Rick Rosenthal. And John Carpenter just stayed in as co-writer and producer with Deborah Hill. So, about 2 years later, the third film came out, titled Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. And John Carpenter still had involvement as the producer with Deborah Hill. The third film was written and directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. And I forgot to mention as well, Nick Castle did not return for Halloween 2 as Micheal Myers. In the second film, he's played by Dick Warlock. Also, the mask is changed slightly because Shatner's lawyers were like, threatening to sue or whatever because it was his face or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. So back to Halloween 3. So the tagline on this one was "The Night Nobody Came Home," and as I just said, written directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, starring Tom Atkins, Stacey Nelkin, and Dan Hurling. I can't pronounce the name right. So this had no original cast members from the first two films, apart from a cameo from Jamie Lee Curtis, where she makes a voice cameo as like an announcer in the small town where the factory was being made, where there was the third film's antagonist, Connell Cochran. Now, John Carpenter saw potential for this to work as an anthology series, but of course, with the disappointment that fans were with it, that there was no Micheal Myers in this one and stuff, they immediately went back to the original storyline of Micheal Myers. Now, Halloween 3, I think, is a good film. It's a good film in its own right if you don't think of it as part of the Halloween franchise. I enjoyed this film. And, there's 3 masks in it, you wear the masks, the broadcast comes on at the end, and you get turned into cockroaches and snakes and locusts and that when you wear one of the 3 silver shamrock masks. Because Connell Cochran was an Irish warlock, and apparently the hills were meant to run red in blood and stuff. Yeah. He was an evil mastermind and a warlock performing witchcraft to make some kind of some sort of ritual sacrifice or something. He was a good villain. So then also Halloween 3, the scene when they're in the mask factory, that is a real Don Post mask factory that they were filming it in, because, well, with the budget and everything and that, they just thought, what the hell, let's do it. And Tommy Lee Wallace originally wanted to opt for a happy ending where Tom Atkins' character beats Cochran and stops the whole slaughter and that, but John Carpenter wanted it to be some kind of like ending where we kind of don't know if he stopped it or not, because at the end he's like phoning all the TV stations to cancel their broadcasts, and he's calling one station to try and stop it. But of course a kid flips on the channel and he's shouting for them to stop the broadcast, and the film abruptly ends. With the negative stuff it received, we didn't see another Halloween movie for at least another 5 years. And that's when they returned with the Micheal Myers story. Halloween 4, The Return of Micheal Myers. And, of course, it was 10 years after the first film, and, well, 10 years after the first, set 10 years after the first 2 films. So this one wasn't taken off from Halloween 2 or anything. So, Halloween 4, of course, was rightly titled The Return of Micheal Myers, with its tagline, 10 years ago, he changed the face of Halloween, tonight he's back. And, of course, in the, John Carpenter, I think, was still credited in this. It was directed by Dwight H. Little, starring, again, Donald Pleasance, who was the only original cast member to return from the first 2 films. Ellie Connell, and of course, at the time, newcomer Danielle Harris, who was now the Scream Queen, and it also starred Michael Pateki or something. And this time, Micheal Myers was portrayed by George P. Wilbur. So, this is 10 years after the first 2, and in that 10 years, Laurie Strode has died in a tragic car accident. I forgot to mention 2 from Halloween 2. The Strode parents died in a car crash also, which is why Laurie was adopted into the Strode family. So in this, she's reported she's dead, and from a car accident, and she has a daughter called Jamie Lloyd, Michael's niece. So then, when he discovers that, he then goes looking for, Jamie Lloyd, who is his next target, throughout Halloween 4. Dr. Sam Loomis is the only one who ever stands up to Michael in this film. And of course, Halloween 4, when the monsters are all gone, of course, we get one last scare from Jamie when she has inherited like her uncle's evil ways. With this film not well received with critics, and that Halloween 5, it still gained enough success to get a sequel. So Halloween 5 was put into production without a solid script. In this one, excuse the noise if you can hear that, that's the neighbours next door. I have no idea what they're doing. Sanding probably. So yeah, Halloween 5 took place 1 year later after the first film. This was the last one John Carpenter had any involvement with. This time the Shape was portrayed by Don Shanks, and it still starred Donald Pleasance, Danielle Harris, Ellie Connell, with this time Benny Starr, Wendy Kaplan, and Tamara Glenn. Yep. And this one was directed by Dominique Othen Gerard or something. I'm butchering that name probably. And the tagline on this one was "Michael lives, and this time they're ready." So 10 years later, the fifth one of course was titled The Revenge of Michael Myers. The first part of the film, the opening scene, is taking place straight after the events of Halloween 4, how Michael survived and how he went into a coma for a year until he awakened in Halloween 1989. And again, pretty much similar to the last one, he goes out to try and kill Jamie, and when he does, well, he tries to kill her, and also he has a symbol on him that is on his wrist. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, it's here, this symbol. This symbol was apparently the symbol for the Cult of Thorns or something like that. It was a cult, which we don't find out until the sixth film, what that symbol is, but in Norse mythology that was the symbol for giants. I should know because I got it tattooed on me. So, what else can I tell you on this? So yeah, the film pretty much ended abruptly when Michael was finally captured, and then some guy in a long coat and a hat gunned down the whole police station, killing everyone in the process. And then we see Jamie wandering alone and frightened, and then the film ends there, and that's it. We don't see her again, and the film pretty much ends where, and we don't find out what happens till 6 years later in 1995 when the sixth film came out. And of course, when the sixth film came out in 1995, the rights got sold to Dimension Films, where the franchise still continued. So after 6 years off screen, Michael returned. So the sixth installment of the Halloween series was titled Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. This one is where we finally find out what Michael's motive is. We see the return of Jamie Lloyd, who is pregnant and gives birth in the film, and then Michael has a great nephew he needs to kill. George P. Wilbur returns as Michael Myers from, he was Michael in Halloween 4. Now he is Now he's in Halloween, The Curse of Micheal Myers, reprising that role. So, Danielle Harris did not return as Jamie Lloyd. It was a different actress. So yeah, the sixth film was written by Paul Freeman and directed by Joe Chappell. And this one starred Donald Pleasance as Dr. Sam Loomis, Paul Rudd, Marlena Hagen, Mitch Ryan, and I just said George People. So yes, this one, the tagline on this one was called "Terror Never Rests in Peace." So this one explains to us that Michael was driven by a curse which that urged him to kill his entire bloodline. And if he could, then he could die. And that's why he couldn't die, because he had to kill his entire bloodline. And of course, the symbol on here, which I showed you just earlier, that is the Coat of Thorns symbol, even though it means giant in Norse mythology. So, yeah, again, the mask is different. They change the mask every time because of copyright reasons with William Shatner and all the Star Trek people. So, yes. Curse. Also, this had a young Paul Rudd in his first, star role in a film. This was also the last time Donald Pleasance played Dr. Sam Loomis, because he sadly died during post-production, so he never really got to see the film or his last ever performance before he died, which was sad. So yeah, the ending of the film, we don't know whether Michael kills Dr. Loomis or not. We're not 100%. I think he did kill him, or Loomis just, died from his illness or whatever. We don't know. He died off screen. He was, and also Donald Pleasance sounded ill when he was in his role playing Loomis one last time, and that was, unfortunate. By now the film rights were sold to Dimension Films, and they made that one, Halloween, The Curse of Micheal Myers. Then about 3 years later, the seventh film came out, titled Halloween H2O, 20 years later. Now apparently this was in an alternate timeline where Laurie had never died in a car accident. I don't like to think of it like that. I like to think, that Laurie, she faked her death, went under a new name to hide from Michael. She met a guy she weren't expecting to meet, and she could have had a car crash. Her husband could have died in the car crash, and she could have abandoned Jamie at birth because she, if Michael was ever going to come after her, she didn't want her caught up. That's how I like to think of it as. So the seventh film, H2O, 20 years later, this had a brief appearance from a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It also had Josh Hartnett in it, Michelle Williams, and it also had the return of Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. Well, as Laurie, going under a different name to protect herself. And it also has a cameo from her mother, Janet Leigh, in this film, which I thought was, quite a nice touch. I like that, mother and daughter thing. And in this one, Michael was portrayed by Chris Durand. And this was also 20 years after Halloween. So yes. Of course, the film didn't do too good. It had rapper LL Cool J to try and raise public interest, but it just didn't. However, the film. You know, die-hard fans obviously loved this film enough. Even though they were trying to make it the last ever one, they still wanted more. And then, of course, about round 5 years later, at the turn of the century, they were treated to an 8th installment in the franchise. Yes. So, Halloween Resurrection. I changed my glasses. Where do I begin on that? Well, well, this one, it was directed by Rick Rosenthal. Of course, we all know him from directing Halloween 2, as we discussed earlier in this video. So yeah, Halloween Resurrection from 2002, and this starred Busta Rhymes, Bianca Kajlich or something, Thomas Ian, Nicholas, Ryan Merriman, Sean Patrick Thomas, Tara Banks, Brad Lord as Micheal Myers, and Jamie Lee Curtis. So, this one, well, first of all, Jamie Lee Curtis, she was only in the opening scene and she died, and at Michael's hand. And of course, if she didn't get curious by pulling the mask down, she could have killed him and finished him off, but no. So yes, she was dead. Also, another thing with the opening scene is he gives his knife to another mental patient who's wearing a clown mask. Guess it's kind of reminding him of him when he was in Smith's Grove Sanitarium. So, the 8th installment in this franchise, Busta Rhymes took the lead role in this. This one is, was considered comedy horror because it was so light-hearted and cheesy. So Busta Rhymes, got all these students together, and they were all doing a reality show in the Myers house. And of course, with them thinking Michael's dead, Busta Rhymes steps in as Michael, and there's just a bit in it where he's like tapping on his mask going, "No way, man, I get to be Michael Myers." And it's the real Michael, of course. So yes, this one is very witty and very funny. We even get Busta Rhymes, it's getting very late. Busta Rhymes, he fought Michael and stuff, and he even did that trick or treat, motherfucker. And then he went, "Yo, Michael, happy fucking Halloween!" Yeah, it was funny. We had our final girl though, that Bianca girl, who I know as Jen from Rules of Engagement and Buster. They survived, but of course, the film was poorly received. Also, why did Halloween H2O and Resurrection come out in the summer of the years they came out? They could have come out in the October, because that would have made more sense. So yeah, the last Halloween film in the original franchise, and that because 2003, 4, 5 and 6 we had no Halloween. But then in 2007, former white zombie singer Rob Zombie rebooted the franchise by writing and directing Halloween 2007, and he put the tagline as "Evil has a Destiny." This remake, it starred Malcolm McDowell, now playing the role of Dr. Sam Loomis, and here's a little fact for you. Rob Zombie originally wanted Sid Haig, aka Captain Spaulding from House of Thousand Corpses and its sequel Devil's Rejects, to play Dr. Loomis, but he couldn't put on a good enough British accent, so yeah. But he did have a cameo in it as a graveyard guy. Malcolm McDowell played Dr. Sam Loomis. We also had Rob Zombie's wife, Sherry Moon Zombie, because she's in all his films. We even had Laurie, played by Scout Taylor Compton. We even had Brad Dourif, that's right, Chucky, as the sheriff this time round. And this also had Danielle Harris in, and of course, she is the only actor from the original franchise to return in this remake, now playing Laurie's friend Annie. And we also had, I can't remember the guy's name now, but he played little Micheal Myers as a kid, but as a grown-up he was played by Tyler Mane. So, Rob Zombie in this take on Halloween chose to explore a bit of the backstory of Micheal, like retell all that. It was a 2-hour film. Basically, the first hour of the film, we focus on Micheal as a kid, being treated by Dr. Loomis, and then the last hour is like a sort of a shot-for-shot remake, but slightly altered and changed and everything, like Annie surviving, and Dr. Loomis showing a bit of humanity towards Micheal. Like, he doesn't want to kill him, but, it's like, shows some humanity and that. So, yeah, this one's sort of like a prequel in the first hour, as well as a remake. Also, what was it now I was going to say? Yeah, this, Rob Zombie even had the approval of John Carpenter to remake this. He was all in favour of it. He said it was like, fine, you can remake it and that, and yeah. Blessing from the original founder of the series. But of course, given it had mixed reviews, it still did well enough to get a sequel 2 years later in 2009. In this one, it starred the same amount of people, Malcolm McDowell, Sherry Moon Zombie, Tyler Mane, Scout Taylor Compton, Danielle Harris, Brad Dourif. But this one, and the tagline for it was "Family is Forever." Now this one, where do I begin? I don't get this at all. I'm like thinking, what's this white horse all of a sudden got to do with Micheal? And how come he's having hallucinations of his mother? If you ask me, this was just, so Sherry Moon, so Rob Zombie could give Sherry Moon, a reason to be in this film. Secondly, Brad Dourif's long ponytail. I don't know what the hell's going on there. That looks like a midlife crisis. And also Dr. Loomis. Now, in the first film, he wrote a book about Micheal and that, and given the events of the film, of the previous film, he becomes successful and goes on tour and everything, doing book signings and what have you. And, he gets so intoxicated with that kind of power, he turns into a dick, like a huge dick, to the point where you don't like him. And I thought, now you see, he did a great job. I thought he did a goodish job, by playing Dr. Loomis in the previous film, but in this he's a total arse. This also had a cameo from Weird Al Yankovic as well. Again, Rob Zombie returned as writer and director for this second installment of his reboots. But yeah, I wasn't with it, the story and that. I just didn't make much sense to me. To me, this looked like, now it paid homage to the original Halloween 2 in the opening scene when Laurie's in hospital running for her life from Micheal on that same night. I like how it pays, a huge nod to that at the start. But yeah, this film, it's just basically a Rob Zombie original film with Micheal Myers and all them lot in it. But one thing I do like about this is the hobo look of Micheal. Yes, Micheal had a look called the hobo look. People call it hobo Micheal Myers. He had like a chunk of his mask missing, and he wore a hood and a jacket and everything, and looked like a scruff. I didn't like the whole chunk of his mask missing, and it was meant to be a latex mask and it was falling to shit. I also didn't like how he got unmasked and actually spoke. Yeah, that's right. He spoke in it and shouted to Loomis, "Die!" For me, he just ruined the mystery there. You know, he didn't even make Michael look scary anymore. I mean, Michael, I've never found him scary, but if I came across him, I think I would be a bit scared. But, you know, after that, knowing that he's just a normal human man that gets gunned down, yeah, it didn't do it for me. And then, apparently, also Laurie, she was suffering from great PTSD of the first film, which is fair enough, but then she goes all loopy at the end by seeing the horse in Sherry Moon and that. Yeah, and pretty much they never picked up on that, and I guess they didn't really need to, because I didn't find that a necessary sequel at all. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. His first one was alright, but the second one, no. So that's pretty much it in the Halloween film franchise. The plans have gone ahead now. They've been talking about a reboot sequel for some time, and then earlier this year, they confirmed it. So next year we will have a new Halloween film called Halloween Returns. It will be a sequel to Halloween 2, ignoring all the other films like H2O did. So basically this is like H4O, because the film's 40 next year as well. Jamie Lee Curtis is returning as the star, again as Laurie. So yeah, an alternate timeline and what have you. And they've even got John Carpenter on board as producer, so you know he's returning to the franchise after a long time. Also, there are a lot of other people getting involved in this as writers and that, including Danny McBride, who is a comedic actor, but he did a great job being a serious one in Alien Covenant earlier this year. So yeah, but I'll give this one a chance, you know, given it's within the original franchise, so you know, you never know until you see it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this horror talk. We've gone through all the Halloween movies. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below, what is your favourite film in the series. Also, if you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to share with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. All their social media links, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, are all linked down below. So, happy Halloween to you all, and until next time, don't have nightmares. You can also watch 31. All 31 reviews now. Yes. Good night.